Hi, this video is dedicated to explaining just one agricultural law, the law most unacceptable, the law at the heart of these protests. If you've been hearing the words APMC and MSP and are unable to really cull out what's at stake, I'd urge you to stick with us. The law most controversial of them is called the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. Obviously, we're not going to refer to it this way in the current video. We're going to call it the APMC Bypass Act. Now, the credit for this short form goes to agricultural economist Sudha Narayanan. And in fact, she has short forms for all the three agricultural laws, but we're going to stick with this one. The APMCs, or the Agricultural Produce Market Committee, came up in the 60s. Under the APMC Act, the idea was to protect the farmer from exploitation and market forces. Under this, farmers sold through APMC yards. So think of them as designated mandis, warehouses, cold storage across each state run by respective state governments. Now, for 23 crops every year, the government sets a fixed minimum support price. This is the MSP. I'll come back to this shortly since this is at the heart of the ongoing protest, but for the moment we must remember this. When the government buys any of the 23 crops, either for the PDS or otherwise, or to bail farmers out if market prices have crashed, they buy inside the mandi and at MSP. If the government doesn't buy any of these 23 crops, which is often the case, the MSP remains a number. It's notional. Outside the mandi, the MSP does not apply. For produce other than the 23 crop, let's say fruits and vegetables, there is no MSP. Those prices are discovered. Now, the new APMC Bypass Act says that farmers can sell their produce outside APMC mandis and in any state without the state government imposing any tax on the transaction as they currently do. The emphasis is on can sell. It's a choice. Don't they sell outside the mandis now, you'll ask? Yes, they do. Remember, there's no guarantee of an MSP outside the mandi. What the protesting farmers fear is that this new law legitimizes the outside mandi framework. Big traders, the farmers fear, will take their business outside the mandis where there is no monitoring, no fee, and no license hassle. Farmers will be at a complete disadvantage negotiating the prices with these powerful players. No one will buy inside the mandi, thus leading to the collapse of the mandi system. It'll be the collapse of the one place where the farmer gets an assured price, the MSP. So the natural corollary is when the traders move out, the farmers will be forced to, and there will be no guarantee of an MSP outside, and thus over time the MSP will die a natural death. So they want this particular law, the Bypass APMC Act, to be revoked and the MSP to be written into a law. A note here, the MSP is not mentioned even once in the APMC Bypass Law. It was never a law since it first came up as an administrative policy in the 50s. Now, the government says the MSP system is not being abolished, it's not being changed, but they're not going to make it a law. Their reasons are something like this. Number one, they say asking for an MSP law while protesting another law is an unreasonable demand. You're changing the goalpost. Number two, and many agricultural economists say this, if the MSP is a law, it may imply that private players buying below MSP could face consequences, and that's going to be a disaster. They also add that no government can buy up all the produce that comes up in a country. Even now, the government often does not buy all the 23 crops it decides the MSP for. So remember what we said, that the MSP remains a notional number there. The bulk of the MSP transactions inside the mandi are the government's procurement for its PDS system. Almost all of it is rice and wheat. There's some procurement of pulses, but it's negligible compared to rice and wheat. Now, even for wheat and paddy, which it does buy at MSP, it can't assure procurement across India. 75% of the government's procurement of these two crops comes only from about 3 to 4 states. And that explains why the most visible face of these protests have been Punjab's farmers. They contribute 38% of India's central pool of wheat and 45% of rice and are one of the biggest beneficiaries of the MSP system. Currently, the MSP scheme covers only 6 to 25% of all farmers in India. These are based on different assessments. So much of India actually faces a very imperfect market. They are constantly selling outside regulated mandis. It's clear the current system is flawed. APMC has middlemen, cartels. It's begging to be reformed. The entire sector, in a sense, farmers' debt, suicide, productivity, land holdings. Yes, the problem list is endless, and farmers have themselves wanted changes. So why is there such a disbelief about these laws that will bring reform and the government's constant assurances, even the Prime Minister's, when it comes to MSP? That's because the farmer knows how this country works. In 2014, the current government came to power promising MSP to the farmers as calculated and recommended by the Swaminathan Commission. By 2016, the same government had told the court 3 different things. It can't be done, it's undesirable, it'll distort market prices. The Agriculture Minister even said that such a promise was never made. By 2018-19, in his last 2 budget speeches, the late Arun Jaitley said the MSP had been fully implemented. They did, but they changed the formula of calculating the cost of production. Not just this government, successive governments have undermined the MSP in many ways. 1, by simply not procuring. 2, by announcing a high MSP but not opening adequate number of centers that are necessary to procure. Remember, without procurement, MSP is notional. Or announcing an MSP but opening the procurement centers late and closing them early. What happens then? Well, if it opens late, the farmer is so desperate, he sells to private players. And then the late arrivals, they go to private players as well. So the MSP remains an empty drum. Now, to think of it, this is the first big set of agricultural reforms that will so-called revolutionize the sector. And look at the manner in which they were brought. Without talking to farmers, mid-pandemic, first through emergency ordinances, and then bulldozing it through Parliament. How did we forget the tear gas and water cannons? The onus of not including the farmers first and then not communicating a crucial policy change that impacts lakhs in this country who have always got a raw deal rests squarely with the government of the day. I'll end it here. I hope this was useful. My name is Anubha Bhonsle. This is Newsworthy.